My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content. Hey, folks, welcome back. Today, zooming in from beautiful Greenville, South Carolina, we got a very established rent-to-own real estate investor, a man after my own heart, because I kind of grew up real estate-wise in the rent-to-own side of things myself, Mr. Vaughn Bethell. And Vaughn's got kind of a unique way of doing rent to own or lease options, or another term for it is owner financed type deal. So Vaughn, welcome to the show. Great to see you.
Oh, Dave, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
My pleasure. All right, Vaughn. So let's give everybody a big picture overview of what your real estate investing business looks like as of today, August 2024.
Yeah. So started in this industry about 6 years ago and grown significantly. I grew as a wholesaler
Mhm.
because, getting into real estate, not knowing much about real estate and not having a lot of capital, I had to figure out a way to generate a lot of cash without having a lot of cash.
Okay.
So anybody that knows anything about wholesaling knows that it's basically a glorified sales and marketing company, which is my background.
Mhm.
So got really, really good at finding off-market properties, getting in touch with sellers, building a relationship with them, and creating win-win deals. So that generated a lot of cash into the seven figures in the first couple of years.
Wow.
But I realized that it was very transactional, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
So if I didn't have a deal, I had to go find another deal to make money. So I wanted to figure out how to create something that created continuity income, recurring revenue, and is essentially passive income,
Mhm.
right? And which is how I got into the owner financing because I realized after my first couple of rentals, I didn't really like dealing with tenants, toilets, and Texas. I like more being the
I hear
bank.
you, man.
Uh,
Yeah.
but I did realize that there is a space for rentals, and I really coming from outside of the United States. Was born in the Bahamas, raised in Florida, so I'm a Bahamian citizen. I'm now a U.S. citizen, but
You,
I
you, you
really
sound you sound
realized
pretty American to me, buddy.
I know, right? Well, I've been here since 1981, so since
Yeah.
I was a year old.
Yeah.
Um, but I realized one of the biggest dreams that people have coming to the United States was the dream of homeownership. So
Yeah.
I wanted to figure out a way to create a pathway to homeownership, especially people that they can't get traditional financing. If they walk into a retail bank today,
Mhm.
they might meet the criteria of, can afford it. They have a down payment, but they don't fit in that tiny little box that the retail banks have for us when they're originating a first-time home buyer. So
Mhm.
I want to just try to find a way to create a bridge for that.
Perfect. And that's exactly what you're doing with rent to own. That's for sure. So there's all sorts of different ways to do rent to own the strategies. What's kind of
Yeah.
you teased us there, Vaughn, with you've got kind of something different, something unique. What is it that you guys do differently than most other rent to own operators?
Yeah, so rent to own, lease option, owner finance has been around for as long as real estate's been around for the most part, right? But one of the things I think that we've really honed in on and created a niche around is when people come in and partner with us from an investing standpoint, we have this whole pathway to home ownership program built out. So it's not just a strategy to make money and create, cash flow in business and passive cash flow. It's really helping people realize that next step and get them to stop renting and start owning, right? So we've gotten really good at becoming the go-to source for financing outside of the traditional methods here in the upstate of South Carolina. So primarily our buyers or borrowers are the Latino population,
Okay.
which if you really dive into that, one of the biggest reasons they are is because they don't trust banks. But we've created a system where it's not just, hey, here's a potential rent to own or owner finance deal. And in the olden days, unfortunately, people that use this as a strategy
Mhm.
were like, okay, well, if they stop paying, we'll just take the property back and sell it again.
Yeah, it was a
Our
churn
prime
and some unscrupulous operators. It was a churn and burn kind of business. Yeah.
Exactly. Our primary strategy is to get people or put them in a position where within 12 to 24 months after we finance the property to them or rent to own the property to them,
Mhm.
that we put them in a position to get us to refinance us out with a traditional bank at a more favorable interest rate. So
Very, very
that's
good.
where we feel that we've kind of changed the game a little bit on that. And that's why a lot of people like to partner with us, because not only are they getting a great return on investment that's secured by real estate, but they're also having a social or charitable impact by helping families become homeowners.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, Vaughn. So there are a few different strategies for doing rent to own that I'm aware of.
Mhm.
One is, well, the big two are basically either tenant first or property first strategies. And tenant first is where you find an ideal tenant buyer, you help them find a house that fits their criteria and their needs, and then you and your investors go out and you buy them that property, and then you lease option it to them or owner finance it to them for the next 12 to 24 months. The other one is where you start off with a property where perhaps you've gotten into that creatively, you've got some owner financing, or it's just a really good deal, or it's a one of the properties in your current portfolio that you want to sell via rent own, and you start off with the property first, and then you find a tenant buyer for that property. Which one of those do you typically go down? Which route do you go down, Vaughn?
Well, that's a great question. Right now, the way we're positioned is like I mentioned before, we're really good at finding off-market property and
Mm,
negotiating that property for a discount, but a win-win scenario, right?
yeah.
So up until this point, our inventory has been limited to what we have in our pipeline, right? So properties that we've taken down. And when you think about it, our three core beliefs are really what drives us. So when we talked about earlier, like, hey, I do own rental properties. I do have tenants, but our primary exit strategy is to rent to own or own to finance. So when I started buying properties, I would buy a lot of properties from slumlords, retired landlords, right?
Mhm.
But we didn't want to be considered a slumlord. So our number one core belief in our organization is everybody deserves a nice place to live should they be willing to and able to take care of it. So if we buy distressed property, we're going to make sure that all the major systems are good. We're not going to do like a HDTV flip, but we're going to make sure all the major systems are good and give them a nice house that they can then take and make a home.
Yeah.
So, and then our second core belief is that everybody deserves to be a homeowner should they want to be and can afford to be. And then our third core belief is the person that's paying $2,000 a month in rent will much rather pay $2,000 a month to own.
Hmm.
So as we're building up our tenant buyer list, our owner finance buyers list, those are the three things that we're looking at. But right now we're buying the properties, fixing them up because, that acquisition component is what we're really, really good at.
Hmm.
So, but that does create a choking point, right?
Right.
Because we're limited to the inventory that we have, but we're also in the process of putting together a fund and really going after some big time private money partners, because if we can raise enough money and then we can open up that door to where their playing ground or their shopping cart is now the MLS. So if they find a property that they like, we've already vetted them. We've taken them through the underwriting process. We're compliant with Dodd-Frank, the SAFE Act, and they've proven a certified ability to repay.
Hmm.
Now it's just a matter of giving them the right property.
Got it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So coming from your background with wholesaling, you became very, very good at finding good deals. So
Correct.
that's where you've focused. And now the bottleneck is you can still find those good deals, but now you need more investor partners to come on board to buy those deals because there's no shortage of potential customers, tenant buyers in this case, that you've already pre-vetted. They're just kind of waiting on the sidelines for you to bring them a house. Is that kind of
Ex-
where it's at right now?
exactly. Exactly. We have a waiting list of almost 100 buyers that have
Wow,
been pre-vetted. So,
that's
but
huge.
we're taking down probably 6 to 8 properties a month.
Yeah.
So as you can see, there's that waiting list
There's a
is
there's a
there's a
You know
little
what?
backlog there.
You haven't asked for the advice, Vaughn, but from hard learned experience, I might recommend that you keep focusing on the off market deals that you guys can bring down because because I've done it the other way. I've done the tenant first way where we do exactly what you're doing, and then we go buy the person a house, retail value through the MLS with realtors and all that kind of stuff. The challenge with that, my friend, is that if the market goes flat or takes a little dip, then you've got zero wiggle room, right? So
Yeah.
I had a challenge a few times where we purchased the house of the tenant's dreams, and then we had them in there for a couple of years and all set up for success, but the value of the property did not rise to where it needed to be, and the banks would not finance it at the price we needed it to be. So we had to get creative and extend things. It just became kind of a hassle versus what you're doing right now is brilliant
Yeah.
because you're finding really good deals. You're getting into them at either low prices and or creative owner financing type things. That's that's a that's a safer place to be in my estimation.
No,
Yeah,
that's really, really good advice because one of the things that makes this successful is being able to buy it with equity, right?
that's right. Because then, your whole goal is to help your tenant buyer purchase the property, but whatever, if death, divorce, transfers, whatever happens in life happens, you've got different exit plans that you can have with that same property. You can turn it back into a regular
Yeah.
rental and it'll still make some money. You can sell it. And, even if there's just more safety in there. Now, the other thing I like about what you're doing, Vaughn, lots of stuff I love, is that your investors are very, very well secured. So I'm assuming that they're coming on board, as the way you've got it right now. Is it more like partners where they're on title on the property, or how are they secured on the property?
Correct. So all of our investors come in and they're either in first or second position, depending
Mhm.
on how much they invest, right?
Got it. Yeah.
So, and what I mean by that is right now we require a minimum of $100,000 to be in first position.
Yeah.
5 years ago when I first started this, somebody can be in first position at 40 or $50,000.
Prices have got up a little bit.
Prices have gone up a little bit, but if they in that $50,000, we're guaranteeing them second position. So, and then if you think about that, even if there's two people on a note that are on first and second position on a property, that property, we never have more than 75% invested in the property of what the value of the property
Loan to
is.
value. Yeah.
Yep. So
Yeah.
we have at least 25% of wiggle room there if something were to happen, right?
And here's the other big thing. I'm I'm assuming. I'm just talking, but remembering back, scraping the cobwebs there when I was doing this, because I was doing it with investor partners as well. And
Yeah.
what they really enjoyed was, yeah, they're on title, so they're secured. They've got an ownership position in this property. The second thing is, these are not your typical tenants. They are so much better than a traditional tenant because I used to call them homeowners in training. So these
Exactly.
people, yeah, they don't treat this house like a rental property. It is legitimately their home because they're in the process of buying it. Basically, if they're doing a rent to own or an owner finance, either way, they're in the process of buying it. What's your opinion about that, Vaughn?
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot more pride of ownership, right?
Yeah,
And if you structure it correctly, you remember earlier in the conversation I mentioned that I don't like dealing with tenants, toilets, and taxes, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Well, you don't have to deal with that on a rent to own owner finance deal because we make it very clear that they are a homeowner in training.
Hmm.
And here's how I like to put it, right? We are the bank. And I tell people to kind of give them an understanding. Like if my HVAC unit went out in my house, I don't call Wells Fargo and say, "Hey, can you send somebody out to fix my HVAC unit?" Right? That's just not what you do with the
That's a
bank.
me
So
problem, not a them problem. Yeah, exactly.
exactly. So if they have a problem, and the good thing is we make sure all those major systems are good before they move in.
Yeah.
But should something arise, should they have to get their HVAC serviced or replace a ceiling fan or something like that, that's something that they have to do on their own.
Yeah. And then a huge value that you and your team are bringing to the table as well, Vaughn, in addition to finding the property, finding the ideal tenant buyer for that property, putting the whole deal together. The other huge value you bring to the table is the babysitting component, right? The fact that you're keeping tabs on your tenant buyer to make sure they're doing what they need to do to qualify in 12 to 24 months so they can cash you and your investor partners out. Is that correct?
That's correct. And we actually take that a step further.
Hmm.
So we have a third party underwriting service
Yeah.
that underwrites them and makes sure that they're compliant. So they get a certified ATR or ability to repay stamp
Mm.
So they're compliant with Dodd-Frank. And the other thing that we do is we always service the notes with a third-party note servicer. So what this does is we talked about exit strategies before.
Yeah.
Should something happen and I need to exit the note, right? Down the line. Let's say they can't get financed or whatever with a third party, but I need to cash out. By
You as an
having the
investor, you're talking
me
about.
as an investor,
Got it.
whether it's me or one of my partners,
Hmm.
by having it underwritten and having that certified ability to repay stamp, so it's been approved by Dodd-Frank, and having it serviced with a third-party note servicer, it significantly increases the value of that note. So I can almost sell it for face value as long as it's a good performing note. And I also want to make sure that my borrower has a good credit profile and ability to repay. So it doesn't check all the boxes that the big banks have,
Hmm.
but it checks the boxes that we need and gives them that foot in the door, right? But
Yeah.
we mitigate some of that risk by some of the things that we do on our side. So there's a little bit higher interest rate that they're buying with, right? They got to
Right.
put a little bit more money down, so they have to have more skin in the game.
Right.
But having those things to fall back on are very key.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, so this is a pretty attractive situation for your investor partners because they're able to get the benefits of property ownership, investing, but without the hassles, like you mentioned, of tenants and toilets and taxes. That's a big one.
Yep.
That's all kind of taken care of for them. You're the guy that's in the middle managing everything, making the deal happen and making sure everything happens the way it's supposed to be. So it really is quite a hands-free investment choice for your partners, correct?
Yeah, we actually created this unique mechanism that we call the triple passive method, right?
Mm,
Triple passive income.
yeah, what's
So
that?
they're able to be as passive can be, right? So it's not even as much as, hey, I'm collecting a check, but I'm collecting a check. I'm able to not have to worry about tenants, toilets, and taxes. And I'm not even have to worry about the person I'm lending the money to because I'm using a third party loan servicer who makes sure that everything's taken care of.
Ah, I like that.
So we call it
Triple
the triple
passive income.
passive income. Yep,
As passive can get. That
exactly. And
that sounds like a good title for this episode, I think.
exactly. And then what we want to do is like truly cater to our private money partners, which is what we call them, right? And the majority of the ones that partner with us is because they want to be completely hands off. They've gone the rental route or they tried fix and flipping before, or they're just, they're investing out of their 401k or, self-directed IRAs.
Hmm.
And they don't want to be bothered by, hey, having to chase down payments or
Yeah.
worried about, hey, going out and fixing things at the property or collecting rent and things such as that. So they want to be as passive can be. So when we add another layer of, hey, having it serviced through a third party servicing company, like you really are just collecting a check.
And it's probably getting auto deposited into your account, so you don't even have to do that.
Exactly. Let's correct that. You're collecting a deposit into your account.
You're watching it get deposited into your account when you check
Yes.
online. Very, very cool, Vaughn. So, worst case scenario, let's say you've got a tenant buyer in one of your properties, things are chugging along pretty well for the first year out of a 2-year term. Then they get divorced and they split up and everything goes to crap. What happens then? Like what happens under those kind of worst case scenarios?
So worst case scenario, and actually in full transparency, we just went through our first foreclosure,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And this is one of our best buyers. They would pay religiously. They put $50,000 down on a property that we sold for them to them for $210,000. But things happen. And
Yeah.
this one was a very unique case because the husband actually got picked up on an international drug cartel ring, which
Wow.
nobody knew of.
Yeah.
But he was in jail for about 60 days. The wife continued to come in and pay the mortgage, and they always paid at least 2 weeks early, and they paid in
Mm.
cash. And just one
that,
day,
that explains the cash.
exactly. That explains why
Yeah.
they came in with $50,000 down in cash, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but the one day she stopped paying. And we knew that was very odd for them because she didn't show up 2 weeks early. And
Yeah.
even when the date came, she didn't show up. So we had one of our runners go out and check the property, and the property was abandoned.
Oh.
Well, we went out, and usually with these deals, we'll have a what's called a deed in lieu of foreclosure agreement. So if they can't continue to pay their mortgage, they agree to sign a deed in lieu of foreclosure.
Yeah, you just get
But
it
they
back
have
immediately without having to go through foreclosure. Yeah.
exactly, but they have to be present to do that.
Oh,
So nobody could find them. So we ended up hiring a private investigator. And about 3 weeks later, the private investigator says, I can't find them. I can't find anybody related to them. I'm pretty positive that they fled the country.
yeah. They went back to Colombia or wherever, right? Yeah.
So with South Carolina being a judicial state, the judge made us go through the entire foreclosure process to get the property back. Here's the benefit of that. One, my private money partner, they didn't even know, other than, they get served papers just letting them know that they, because they're first position on the property,
Right.
that the property was undergoing foreclosure, but they continue to receive their monthly payments from us because our obligation is to them,
Right.
right? But two, when we did get that property back, it had appreciated.
Mm.
So we were able to turn around as soon, like within a week of getting it back, we were able to sell it again for more, get the same down payment, but now our note was higher.
Yeah.
So we were able to just do it again. And, it's a win-win. The reason we get the larger down payment is to cover instances like that,
Yeah.
right?
That's why your investor partner doesn't have to, your private money partner doesn't have to worry about it because you've got a big chunk of change up front. Some of that's in the contingency account in case what hits the wall. Yeah, very,
100%.
very cool. So even worst case scenarios, a pretty good case
Yeah,
scenario.
it's a win-win, right?
Yeah,
As long as,
exactly.
everything, as long as we do everything that we need to be doing on our side, securing the property, making sure that we have hazard insurance and things such as that.
Mhm.
But yeah, because we underwrite our properties and, stay compliant with Dodd-Frank and ability to repay and everything like that, our foreclosure rate is extremely low, and that was just an odd instance, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Makes sense, Vaughn. Hey, time flies when we're having fun. If people want to
it does.
connect with you and find out more, where should they go?
Yeah, the best place to go is to go to our website is REI Junkies. That's REIJUNKIES.com. And that talks about our entire Pathway to Home Ownership program.
Fantastic. Well, hey, Vaughn, sounds like you're doing great things with rent own, lease options, owner financing. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Dave. I really appreciate it.
All right, everybody, take care, and we will see you on the next episode. Have a good one. Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now, at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.